What we've got today is a Casablanca Victorian in antique copper. Antique copper is one of the oldest and also one of the least common finishes that Casablanca ever offered. It is finish number 1, which leads me to believe it may be the first finish that Casablanca ever created, though I'm not entirely sure, so don't quote me on that. And it was available from the very start of Casablanca up until around 1982 or 3, and that's when it was discontinued. But then it was brought back again under the number 51 in the late 90s, and used on models such as the Victorian and the New Orleans, and then it was discontinued again for the second and final time in the mid-2000s. This fan is from December of 1981, so obviously this one is part of the original run of antique copper. And it has a K55 motor with slumber quiet and pretzel brackets, as you can clearly see. This fan came to me along with a brass and copper Victorian. You might remember I videoed that fan a few months back. They both came with 5-blade flywheel adapters. However, on that fan I decided to take it off. With this one I left it on. And this fan came 100% complete minus the glass. The glass I did add myself. And the reason I have just a generic schoolhouse globe on the centerpiece is because the fitter is very wide for that one. It's a standard K1 as opposed to the usual K2s that those were. Which means that that is pretty much the only globe I have that actually fits on there, so it'll work for now. So antique copper was offered on the Victorian, as seen here. The New Orleans, the 20th Century Limited, was the only finish for the Commodore Vanderbilt 250. It was also offered on the Zephyr and possibly the Four Seasons as well. I'm yet to see photographical evidence of that last one, but it is certainly possible that antique copper Four Seasons do exist. Anyways, there's the tag. And this fan has light oak blades with logo tip. And other than the glass, it did come 100% complete, so it does have its hang true and all that good stuff. Now, when I first got this fan, it had been converted to 3-speed. However, as you can probably tell by the potentiometer on the side of the switch housing, I did convert it back to slumber quiet. And some of you out there are probably rolling your eyes and screaming at your screens right now, saying, "Why did you convert it back? It was perfect the way it was 3-speed. Now it's going to fail and burn your house down and blah, 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 blah." And yes, I know, I'm not oblivious to the fact that slumber quiet is a faulty system. And, you know, people are always throwing around that argument. It's not about if it's going to fail, it's about when it's going to fail. And yes, I know, I've heard it 150,000 times already. But let me just say my quick defense piece. Or not really defense piece, but like my reasoning for why I still use slumber quiet. Because yes, I know it's a faulty system, and they will all inevitably fail one day or another. However, I like to enjoy them for what they're intended to do while they're still alive, similar to how human life works. It's not about if we're going to die, it's about when we're going to die. But it's also about how we spend our lives and what we do with our lives before we die. And the thing is, like, I know I'm going to die someday, but I'm not going to commit suicide right now to get that inevitable over with. I'm going to enjoy my life for what it's worth while it's still happening. And I do the same thing with slumber quiet fans. I enjoy the slumber quiet function for what it's supposed to do while it's still alive, i.e. while it still works properly. And then when it fails, I'll either replace it with a new board or I'll convert it to 3-speed if I have to. Simple as that. So there's my little philosophy spiel for the day, and also my reasoning for why I do avidly use slumber quiet. Anyways, so now we'll go ahead and demonstrate the fan itself. Starting off with the light. Overall, this fan is in really good shape. Aesthetically, it's in impeccable shape. Cosmetically, the shape is okay. The bearings are pretty scratchy. However, they're not nearly as bad as they are in the brass and copper Victorian. We'll start the fan off as slow as it can go on the slumber quiet control. And it may stall out due to the weight of the 5-blade adapter on it. It is just crawling along there. Now it's gaining a little bit of speed. Anyways, we'll turn it up a little bit. Potentiometer is in a little bit of an awkward position for me to reach, but as long as I do the 2 index finger method, I can still get to it. Take it up some more. Now we're at a lowish medium speed. And the bearings are starting to make some scratching noises. But like I said, they're not as bad as they were on the brass and copper Victorian. As on this one, while they are still somewhat noisy, at least they're not super stiff. They still move pretty well. And while the balancing of the blades on this fan isn't perfect, again, miles better than the brass and copper Victorian. put it in the wrong direction there for a second. My mistake. Right there, we're nearing full speed. And a dead stink bug just fell off the top of it. That's pretty gross. Don't know how long that's been up there. And full tilt. This Victorian is pretty fast. Certainly faster than some of my other ones. And of course it is blowing out a ton of air. And there you go, a Casablanca Victorian in antique copper. Join us next time for a rather similar fan, but with a K63 motor.